We are seeing record heats. It is hotter than the devil's anus outside. And I think some of you guys want to know what are some cooling options that we have for riding our motorcycles, maybe working in our garage or whatever. And I have a few of them right here, and they're actually pretty cool, and I'm excited to talk about them. Before I get into that though, I want to talk about what I'm wearing right now. So this little vest that I have right here is made by AlphaCool, and the way that it works is really similar to those little T-Rex costumes, you know, the ones that inflate around you. Well, it's got these fans back here, and these fans are blowing air around my body right now. And where this really works well is a situation where you're in an environment, it could be a warehouse, it could be your garage, and you need some air circulation to try to cool down a little bit. Right now, the air is blowing around in here. I have a nice jersey on here that it breathes pretty well, but right now I can feel my body cooling with the sweat on my body. And as it's moving around, it is evaporating, and I am actually getting cooler. So this thing's pretty neat. It is definitely something that I would recommend for the garage. It's not gonna work on a motorcycle, unfortunately. There's no way that these little fans can keep up with you doing 60 plus miles an hour, right? The other thing is that if it's really hot outside and you try to go walk around, and trust me, I've tested this now. It was 110 degrees the other day. I went and walked around, and all this thing did was just blow hot air in here. Didn't quite do the job. But something like right now where it's significantly warmer outside, but my garage, while it is hot, it's just mostly that there is no air circulation in here. I don't have any fans going, so this thing is working. Let's get into the first item over here. I'm sure that many of you have either used or seen these evaporative cooling vests before. And to be totally honest, I think that these things are probably the best bang for the buck. They kind of hit all the different check marks at once. So one being of those check marks is being able to fold this thing up and just stuff it somewhere deep. And then when you need it, being able to bust it out. The other thing is that ease of use. This thing is incredibly easy to use. All you have to do is soak it in water and then wear it. There's no batteries, there's nothing else. They're extremely affordable and they work pretty well. Do they work amazingly? No, but it will take a little bit of that edge off. And the other downside to wearing these, unfortunately, is that your clothes do get wet. When it's 100 degrees outside, which I don't really recommend riding in that kind of weather, but sometimes we need to, it doesn't really matter if your clothes get wet. The most important thing is just trying to stay cool. And these things do work. And I will say that the other thing is when it's that hot and you're riding, you are gonna need to stop somewhere, go into a gas station and just soak this thing. Like go out to where the mop sink is and soak it in some water, and then there you go. You're wet again, you can keep going. So this is probably the most affordable, the smallest impact on your gear, and I think just technologically everything is the easiest. Option numero dos. Now this is super crazy tech, honestly. This thing is a circulatory vest. So what that actually means is that if you look in here, there are these tubes that are woven into this vest. This vest is insulated, so that's kind of why it looks like something that you would wear on a boat. And what happens in the way that this works is it's battery operated, and it has a bladder in the back here that you fill with ice, and then you fill with water, and there's a small pump at the bottom of this that will pump that water through the entire vest. And what's interesting about this is that for all of you who've ever tried to go into some cold water, you know how it is. You get up to about here, you're maybe okay. And then as soon as you hit your torso, it starts to get really cold. And that's kind of how I can equate this feeling. Like as soon as that cold water starts rolling through this vest, I mean, it almost takes your breath away. And it's pretty cool. So a couple things that I would say if you went with this type of option is that it has batteries, so you got to charge them. There is a little trick I'm going to show you on how to plug it into your bike so you can run it indefinitely as long as you're on your bike. Then when you get off the bike, there is the option of the battery as well. But what you would want to do is that when you're riding, you'd fill this thing up with ice, and then as you stop at a gas station or whatever, you would again buy some ice, throw it into this little bladder here, and just keep doing that all day, because what will happen is that as you run this thing, the ice definitely melts. It works. This thing works really well. So this is made by Gerbing, which again I find super interesting because now they're doing the opposite of what they usually do. They usually heat us up with their Gerbing heated gear, and they're cooling us with their new cooling vest. And this is brand new to Gerbing. Option number 3, and this is probably one of my favorites, is the AlphaCool circulatory vest. So the way this one works is very similar to the Gerbing one in that there's a little camelback back here. It comes with these, which basically, I think there's 4 of them, but you fill these with water and then you freeze them and they act as an ice pack that goes inside here. You put a little bit of water in it and then that water is circulated around the ice there into the vest where there are these little tubes that run through here. So really handy, very nice, super small, and that's one of the advantages, one of the check marks for me that I really like about this one. So like the evaporative vest, this one will fold down really small, and I can, when I'm not using it, stick it at the bottom of one of my panniers or my luggage or whatever, and be able to kind of save some space. And as we know on motorcycles, space is super important. So that's one thing that I really like about this one. The disadvantage to having one though that's this thin is that it's not insulated. So the Gerbing one, while it is a little bit thicker, and to be honest, once you empty this out, it actually does still fold down pretty small. But the advantage to having this with more insulation and being a little bit thicker is that it's gonna keep the water that's running through here and the ice in here frozen for a little bit longer. Now here's the thing though, if you're riding a motorcycle and it's really hot outside, I honestly think it's probably better to be stopping pretty frequently and replenishing your ice and just cooling down and getting off the bike. I mean, if it's hot out and it's to the point that you need one of these, I think it makes sense to probably stop more frequently. And on that note, something that I also really like about this AlphaCool one is that this one uses a USB battery. So it doesn't have a proprietary battery like the Gerbing. On these ones, they do have a USB, which I think is great because this battery bank, I can go pick up one of these at a gas station anywhere. I can go get one of these at Best Buy. This is what you use to power your phone. And that means that I could buy as many of these as I want easily on the road anytime. It also has different cables. So this one has a USB-C. It's got a micro USB. So basically I can get those wires anywhere. If I forget the battery or the battery charger on the Gerbing, that kind of puts me in a little bit of a lurch, right? But this one is universal. This is super easy. So I really like that. And another thing I think that's worth pointing out with all these things is that these fit underneath your protective jacket. So this one, as you can see, is really thin. And what I do is I take something like this first MFG jacket that I have here. This is mesh, so it breathes really nicely. Now I have my elbow protection, I got my shoulders, and I got my back. So I got my protection that I need for riding on the road, but I have that cooling, that extra layer of cooling in a mesh jacket. I got one more thing I want to share with you guys. All right, now this is something I'm actually really excited about, and I don't think that a lot of people know about this thing's existence. So this is something that Gerbing makes. It is a little adapter that plugs into your SAE heated gear port, and it converts into a couple different connectors here. One's a USB, the other 2 are the Gerbing kind of typical connectors for a lot of the Gerbing heated gear. But what's cool about this is that it actually works with this Gerbing cooling vest. So we're able to plug it into this adapter, for example. Now the nice thing is that I can run this thing off my heated gear port indefinitely. And the only thing I need to change out is the ice. So that makes a long distance trip a lot more feasible with using something like this. The other thing that this will work with is the AlphaCool. So this little device right here will plug into the USB port on this AlphaCool, and the same type of thing where all you gotta do is just change out the ice. And I think that is so neat. The other thing about this is that for those of you who have some of, like, say, the other heated gear that's out there that uses a USB that's battery powered, like, now you can use this little device to plug in your stuff when you're on the motorcycle in the winter time. That's really what this is supposed to be for. You could potentially use this to charge your batteries. And again, I don't think very many people know that Gerbing came out with this. So thanks for coming to my cooling TED Talk, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.